At the dawn of the 21st century, Russia stood at a crossroads. The turbulent decade following the fall of the Soviet Union had left its armed forces diminished and its military prestige in question. Then, in 2000, Vladimir Putin rose to the presidency, marking the beginning of a new era in Russian military history, one defined by concerted expansion, modernization, and a return to great power ambitions. Under Putin's leadership, Russia undertook a sweeping transformation of its armed forces. What began as a campaign to restore basic order and discipline evolved into one of the most ambitious military revitalization projects of the modern age. The Russian government poured resources into rebuilding the army, navy, and especially the strategic nuclear forces, the cornerstone of Russia's national security doctrine. In the early 2000s, Russian military planners faced daunting challenges: outdated equipment, low morale, and a shrinking defense budget. Yet the Kremlin was determined to reassert Russia's position as a global military power. The first priority was to halt the decline, improving conditions for soldiers, increasing pay, and investing in training. But soon, the focus shifted to something far more ambitious: modernization on a grand scale. A series of state armament programs, spanning 5-year cycles, funneled hundreds of billions of dollars into new weapons and equipment. Russian defense industries, many struggling after years of neglect, were revitalized with state orders. The results were soon visible on parade grounds and in training exercises: new tanks, armored vehicles, fighter jets, and an expanding fleet of warships. But the most profound changes occurred within Russia's strategic nuclear forces. For the Kremlin, the nuclear arsenal was more than just a deterrent. It was the ultimate guarantor of national sovereignty and global influence. Putin himself declared that the nuclear triad, the combination of land-based missiles, submarine-launched missiles, and strategic bombers, would receive special attention. By 2025, Russia possessed the world's largest confirmed nuclear stockpile, with approximately 459 nuclear warheads in its arsenal. Of these, around 1,718 were deployed strategic warheads, ready to be launched at a moment's notice. This vast nuclear force was underpinned by an aggressive program of modernization. As of June 2025, Russian officials announced that 95% of their strategic nuclear forces had been modernized, the highest rate among all nuclear powers. Central to this effort was the development of new and advanced delivery systems. The RS-28 Sarmat, a massive intercontinental ballistic missile, was designed to replace the aging R-36M missiles inherited from the Soviet Union. Nicknamed Satan II by NATO, the Sarmat was touted as capable of carrying multiple warheads and striking targets anywhere on the globe. Despite a major setback in September 2024, when a test launch failed spectacularly, destroying a launch silo at the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, the Sarmat program pressed on, illustrating Russia's determination to maintain a credible and modern deterrent. Beyond traditional missiles, Russia began to unveil a new generation of so-called Doomsday weapons. The Poseidon underwater drone, a nuclear-powered long-range torpedo, was designed to evade existing missile defenses and deliver a nuclear payload to coastal targets. Meanwhile, the Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle could travel at more than 20 times the speed of sound, maneuvering unpredictably to evade interception, while the Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missile added further complexity to Russia's strategic arsenal. These technological leaps were not limited to hardware. Russia's nuclear doctrine evolved as well, enshrining a lower threshold for the use of nuclear weapons in defense of the state or its allies. This shift was demonstrated by the deployment of tactical nuclear weapons beyond Russian borders. In 2023, Russia took the unprecedented step of stationing tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, a close ally on NATO's frontier. The deployment included Iskander-M missile systems, capable of delivering nuclear or conventional warheads, and Belarusian Su-25 bombers modified to carry nuclear bombs. By December 2024, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko confirmed the presence of dozens of Russian nuclear weapons on Belarusian soil. This move marked a significant escalation, signaling Moscow's willingness to project nuclear capability beyond its own territory in response to perceived Western threats. But Russia's military revival was not confined to its nuclear forces. The conventional military underwent a parallel transformation, becoming more professional, agile, and technologically advanced. Special Operations Forces, or Spetsnaz, gained prominence for their role in hybrid warfare and rapid intervention. Russia's western and southern military districts were reinforced with new equipment and formations, reflecting concerns over NATO expansion and instability along the country's borders. Major military exercises, such as Zapad and Vostok, showcased Russia's ability to mobilize and coordinate large-scale operations across vast distances. These drills, often involving tens of thousands of troops, served both as training and as signaling tools, reminding the world of Russia's readiness to defend its interests. Russia's intervention in Syria, beginning in 2010, provided a real-world testing ground for its modernized military. Airstrikes, cruise missile launches from ships and submarines, and the deployment of advanced air defense systems demonstrated Russia's ability to project power far from home. The campaign bolstered Moscow's influence in the Middle East and provided invaluable combat experience for its forces. At sea, the Russian Navy embarked on a steady program of renewal. While the legacy of Soviet shipbuilding meant that many vessels were aging, new classes of submarines, frigates, and corvettes entered service. The Borei-class ballistic missile submarines formed the seaborne leg of the nuclear triad, armed with Bulava missiles capable of carrying multiple independently targetable warheads. In the air, Russia fielded advanced fighters such as the Su-35 and began inducting the fifth-generation Su-57 stealth aircraft. Long-range bombers like the Tu-160 and Tu-95 were modernized and frequently patrolled international airspace, reminding other nations of Russia's strategic reach. Despite these advances, challenges persisted. Economic sanctions imposed after the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine strained the Russian economy and placed pressure on the defense budget. Corruption and inefficiency remained obstacles within the sprawling defense industry. Yet, the Kremlin continued to prioritize military spending, viewing a strong military as essential to Russia's status and security. The global context further shaped Russia's military posture. Relations with the United States and NATO deteriorated to a post-Cold War low, as both sides accused each other of destabilizing actions and arms control violations. In July 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump expressed a desire to maintain the limits on strategic nuclear weapons established in the 2010 New START Treaty, a treaty set to expire in February 2026. Yet the future of arms control remained uncertain, as both sides prepared for a world where such agreements might collapse. Moscow's leaders framed their actions as defensive, a response to the expansion of NATO, the deployment of advanced missile defenses in Europe, and what they described as Western efforts to undermine Russian sovereignty. In this context, the modernization and expansion of Russia's military, and especially its nuclear arsenal, were portrayed as vital measures to ensure national survival. The consequences of this military resurgence reverberated far beyond Russia's borders. In Europe, NATO countries boosted their own defense spending and deployed additional forces to the alliance's eastern flank. The risk of miscalculation, especially in the nuclear domain, became a subject of growing concern among policymakers and analysts. As Russia moved deeper into the 2020s, its military stood as a formidable instrument of state power, modern, well-equipped, and increasingly assertive. The nuclear triad, now at the heart of Moscow's defense strategy, was the most visible symbol of this transformation. With thousands of warheads, cutting-edge delivery systems, and a doctrine that emphasized readiness, Russia signaled that it was once again a force to be reckoned with on the world stage. Yet this new military might came with profound risks. the modernization of nuclear forces, the deployment of weapons beyond Russia's borders, and the erosion of arms control agreements all contributed to a more dangerous strategic environment. The world watched closely, aware that the decisions made in Moscow and the rivalries rekindled would shape the security of nations far beyond Russia's frontiers. In the final analysis, the story of Russia's military might under Vladimir Putin is one of ambition and resurgence, but also of uncertainty and peril. As the Kremlin continues to invest in new weapons and doctrines, the fate of global security hangs in the balance, reminding us that the shadow of military power, once unleashed, is never easily contained.